Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we're learning Masechtas Yevamos daf Tzadi. We are going to begin on Tzadi Amud Aleph, the very first line. The Gemara has been discussing whether or not Beis Din is mastin la'akar davar min haTorah, whether they have the authorization, they have the authority to be able to remove a Torah law. So we saw in yesterday's daf, when it comes to monetary issues, we say hefker Beis Din hefker, and therefore they have the ability to uproot and change certain things. For example, when it comes to the dinim of Yerusha. However, when it comes to dinim of Isser, this is something which we're not so sure. Of course, when it comes to dinim de Rabbanan, like Truma de Rabbanan, we ended up saying they could do. But how about when it comes to din deraisa? So Tashma. Achal Truma Tameya. So if a person would eat Truma Tameya, Mishalom Chulin Tahirin. So he has to pay back Chulin Tahirin. He has to pay back Chulin, that is Tahar. Says Rashi. Again, we're talking about where he ate this Truma b'shaygeg. So the pasuk says, "V'nasan l'kayin as a kaidesh, davar haroyli is kaidesh." You have to pay back something which is fit to become kaidesh. Fine, as is discussed in Psachim. Shilim chulin tamein. So you're supposed to give him back tahar. What if instead you give him back something which is tamei? So in this sumchas aimer mishum rameir, he says depends. If you gave him tamei back b'shaygeg tashlumat tashlumin, we say that since you really thought it was tahar, but it would turn out to be tamei, so we say fine, what you did was okay. However, b'mezid in tashlum tashlumin. If you did b'mezid, we kanas you and say no, it's not going to work. However, so according to Chachamim, they say whether b'shageg or b'mezid, it actually is good that you gave it to him. However, you have to go and give back chulin taharin to him. You have to make sure it's chulin taharin. However, if you gave tamei, then it still works. But we asked the question. So b'mezid ein tashlum of tashlumin. So he said, according to the shita of Rameir, he says that it's not a good tashlum. So b'shaygig it is good, but b'mezid you gave it back tamei, it's not good. So tabla bracha. The achul minei mididli kachazile b'medi tumasa v'kamishal midid chazile b'medi tumasai. So actually, we should say, why do we kanas this guy? Fine. So he was b'mezid, but Rashi says afal pi shiodeshen tamein, even though he knew it was tamei, dischavinhu l'tashlumin hagunin. He was thinking to do a proper tashlumin. Says the Gemara again, the achamine midi deli kachazile. What happened? He ate truma tameya, which in itself is not fit. Bimei tumasai, and he paid back something which was chazile bimei tumasai. In other words, what exactly did he do wrong over here? Because technically, all he did was eat truma tameya anyway. So Amarava, the Armala Kedi Chaser Maxim Hakatan. This is actually what happened. And this is the entire piece. Achol Truma Tameya, again, the guy ate Truma Tameya. Now, Mishalim Koldhu, the truth is you're right. Since you ate Truma Tameya, it's not that it's an issue of you have to give back Truma Tahara, Chulin Tahara. No. You can pay him back anything. Because after all, you ate something which was really not fit at all. So therefore, in that case, you can give him back anything. However, achal truma tahara. Now we're establishing this a little bit differently. Actually, you ate truma tahara, so it was something the coin could have eaten, so it had real value. So masham chulin tahar. So it makes sense. You ate something which was tahar. You have to give back something which is tahar. You're not coin. You're only supposed to do it, but you have to pay him back something which is tahar. Now shilim chulin tamein. Now this is the question. What happens if, again, you ate tahar and you gave him back something which is tamei, which is even worse? So some chasayim mishum rameir, it depends. B'shagig tashum tashumin. B'shagig, we say it's still okay because you didn't mean to do it, you didn't know, you thought it was tahar. B'mezid ain't tashum. However, says Rameir that if it was done b'mezid, you deliberately gave him tamei and you ate tahar, so the din is it's not a good tashlumin. According to Chachamim, they say it is technically good, but you still have to pay him back again. So now, according to again Rav Meir, when we're talking about b'mezid, right? Look in Rashi, b'chulin tamein nami ruin lias kodesh b'hachan b'reisa tashuman malyaninhu. The chulin tamein nami ruin lias kodesh could be loy. As we saw in yesterday's daf, you could separate ral, yafa, etc. midaraisa. You're not supposed to. It's but nonetheless, it still works. De'im kaddish b'hu kayin isha tasel kedushi. If let's say you end up having truma tameya, and that has monetary value to the extent that if a man would give this to a woman, it would be a kedushin. V'yom rabbanan ain't tashlumat tashluman. But according to the Rav Meir, he says that if it was given over b'mezid, it's not good, right? If you gave over the truma tameya, the chulin tameyan, that's not good. But midaraisa, it is good, because sharina neshasishal alma. All of a sudden, you're making the kedusha not work, and therefore you're sending an eshasish to the street. So it's an interesting way of looking at it, because midaraisa truma that item which is tameh has monetary value, and therefore technically it should be a good tashlumin, which could be a payment, and therefore he could be mekadosh nisha with it. And let's say he did, and all of a sudden the Rabban say no, it's not good, which means what do you mean he gave this to a woman, and all of a sudden you're allowing this eshasish, which midaraisa, it's a good kedusha. Now you're saying this married woman goes onto the street. Fine. So, how do they have the right to do it? Must be, we see, because Beis Din has the ability to be akadav in a Torah. So, it just means that he has to pay him back chulin taharin, but it really does work, and the Kohen gets to keep it. It does have value. It's not that midrabanan doesn't work, so therefore the monies have to be returned. No, the Kohen gets to keep it, and therefore the kedushin would still be a good kedushin. But it just means that it's not a good tashlumin according to Rav Meir, in that you have to give again, but not just according to the Chachamim. They have to give back. You have to. But the chiddush is that again, he's saying that you have to give it. You have to give him back. So Yehachi Sumchas Hana Rabbanan. The problem is that it sounds exactly like the sheet of the Rabbanan. We just said, it's not a good tashlumin. What do you mean it's not a good tashlumin? It sounds like it means that you get the money. It's not his money, min Rabbanan. No, really it is. He gets to keep it, but he has to still give him chulin money, which is tahar. But that's exactly that's the same thing. So Omer Rav Acha B'Rei Rav Ika Kansu Shagig Atu Mezid Yigmanaya. The question is, do we cannot Shagig Atu Mezid? So what does that mean? So Rashi says, Rav Meir. So Rav Meir makes a difference between Shagig and Mezid. He says, B'Shagig Tashlumin Tashlumin. As he said, if you gave it back that while it was Tameh, it works. V'lo boy l'shlume su tahayrin. According to him, Rav Meir says you no longer have to give back also tahar food. However, according to the Rabban, they say ben b'shem ben mezid, you actually give it back. So therefore, it's like this. If it's according to the Rabbanan, ben b'shem ben mezid, even though you gave it, it's good. The Kohen gets to keep it, and you still have to give tahar to him. According to Rav Meir, says no. When it's b'shogeg, it works, and you don't have to give anything to him. And we're not geyser shogat to mezid, but mezid, you're right. I agree to him that even though he gets to keep it, and he could have been mekadosh nisha with it, but you still have to give him tahar food. Question 11. Achol truma tameya o tahara. V'shilim truma tameya. You pay back truma tameya. Him sarach laxel shalim truma tahara. So if you ate truma tameya, as we said, you do not need to go and give back. Whatever you gave is fine. You can give anything, as we said. When it comes to truma tahara, if you ate truma tahara, then it depends. If you pay back the truma tamei b'mezid, so they both agree that you sarach lachsa l'shalom, you have to pay back again. However, it's b'shoigeg, it's a machlokas whether you have to do again or what you did was sufficient. Okay, but again, it doesn't answer or ask a question whether we can the chachamim can be lakar davar min Torah. Tashma. So now we have a case of dam shenitma. When it comes to a carbon, dam, which we do zrika with, cannot be tameh. Now, if it does, you're not supposed to do the zrika. But bizarre, let's say you did the zrika anyway, did the sprinkling, so it depends. What was your intentions when you did the zrika? B'shoigeg hortza. So we said that it was done b'shoigeg, you didn't realize it was tameh blood. So in that situation, we say that it is hortza, that you receive atonement. B'mezid hortza. However, if it was done b'mezid, it's nothing. Now, when it comes to doing zrika with tameh blood, midaraisa does work. I don't know that the sanya. It says al mahat sitz maratza. It's a famous gemara. It's mentioned many times. The sitz of the kohen gadol. What's its maratza? Al adam al basav al chaylev. When it comes to blood, meat, or fats, shenitma, that became tameh bein mishug bein b'mezid. Even if it was done the zrika b'mezid, bein ba'onis bein b'ratzin bein b'yachad bein b'tzibor. So midaraisa, you're not supposed to. But if you did the zrika with dam tameh b'mezid, it's hortza. But amri rabbanan lo hortza. But the rabbanan say no, it's not good. So the kahader ma'il chulin la'azara. So that means you're going to end up bringing chulin la'azara, because that's what they're establishing. Because if it is good, so then it was a carbon. But if it wasn't good, so this carbon is like chulin shnishchatu la'azara. And therefore, how could the chamim do that? It must be because we see that they could akar davar min Torah. So Amar Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Chanina, no. Mailu hortza to ka'amar lahater basar b'achila. It means that they can't eat the meat. Abu Baal nischaper bo. The Baal, it is nischaper. We're not changing that. Midaraisa, when you do zrika sadam with dam tameh, it works. And the Rabbanan, they're not going to touch that. Also, it works. It's a kapara. But what the Chachamim can do is say you don't eat the meat. So kamas akra achilas basar. They're saying you can't eat the meat. We see that the Baal is mischaper with the eating of this food. And they're saying you're not allowed to eat it. So if the kohen doesn't eat it, that's going to cause a problem for the full achievement of the person to be able to receive kapara. So how could the Chachamim do that? How can the Chachamim say, don't eat this meat? By them not eating the meat, he's not going to achieve kapara, even though midaraisa does. So Amalei sheval tasa shani. So you're right. There are some times that even midaraisa, the Chachamim can be akar davar min Torah, which is a case of a sheval tasa. Let's see Rashi. Lav akirahi kagoin achilos basar asehi. So eating meat is an action. Right, for them to eat the actual meat, the Chachamim could say no. You're not actually being oiker biyadayim. All you're doing is sitting and remaining passive. So sheval tasa, the Chachamim have the right to say, you know what? I know midaraisa you could eat the meat. We're going to say don't eat it. And just sit there and don't do anything. That much they could do. Then it ends up being uprooted just by itself. Because if the kohen doesn't eat the meat, then there's no kapara. When we said that the truma really works midaraisa, however, midrabban we say it's like it doesn't count, like you did nothing. That's mamash and akira biodayim. How do we know that? So far we do see one situation, TA 13. Dam shenitma b'zarku b'mezil hortza mahabir luhortza laman di omer in base the masal akar davar min Torah the eich rabbanon akru hartzazu min hatayra. So again, as we said, luhortza just means that there's no heter to eat the meat. However, they do have the koyach to do this because it is only a shev al tasa. Okay, as we continue to tzadi amid base, Amrulei. There's a lot of Rashis on this. Ba'i lo'oisvach I wanted to ask you a lot of different questions. This is Rav Chisda speaking to Rabbi. I want to ask you a lot of different questions about this concept of being oiker, basically being oiker in the Torah. For example, oral. So let's look at Rashi. Oimer b'psachim ha'parish min ha'orla k'parish min ha'kever. The gershnis gayer erev ha'pesach ein shaychten alav. So it says, the Oimer ha'gemara, time of the Beis Hillel. Why does Beis Hillel say this situation? Someone who separates from orla is k'parish min ha'kever, and a convert on Erev Pesach, you cannot do shchita for him. So Gezer Hashem yetamu l'shana haba. He says because maybe they'll become tamei in the future. So Alma Mishum Gezer Rabbanan Mavatlin and Le Mepesach. We say because of a din Rabbanan, we're not going to allow them to be able to partake of the carbon Pesach. Midoraisa they could. However, Midorabanan they say no. So the question is, how do they have a right to tell this person not to be able to eat the carbon Pesach? So where it's going to enter, like all of them, it's Sheval Tasa. Hazah, Shvus, which is a din d'Rabbanan, V'leis Allah b'Shabbos. El Isur d'Rabbanan v'omedes mifnei Pesach, Mavatos d'Emrinan Hazah Shvus v'Eino Deicha Shabbos. So they're doing the Hazah, which is a way of like, it looks like it's discussed in Psachim as well as in Beya, is a form of masak. It looks like you're masakin mana by you becoming tahar through being sprinkled. Now that's only din d'Rabbanan, but we say you can't do a din d'Rabbanan, and all of a sudden the Chachamim who say no, all of a sudden you're being akar davar min Torah because now you can't eat a carbon Pesach because you're still tamei. The Ismail, a knife. What is that? Like Gabi Mila, Amar Rabbanan, it says in the 19th parak of Masechta Shabbos in Rebbe Lezer Mila, Ein Mavian Oiso Derech Gagos v'Karfifos v'Otza Didhu Mid Rabbanan Mikar Mila Bizmana. So you're really supposed to have Mila Bizmana on Shabbos, let's say. However, you're not allowed to carry this knife through these different Rishuyos, which are only Rishuyos de Rabbanan. So again, the question is, how could the Chum say, we don't want you to do this mitzvah, they're being oiker davar min Torah? The answer is, again, it's Sheval Tasa. You just won't do the bris milah. Sudden but tzitzis, the midorais is shari, to have the wool and linen, because the pasuk says, as quote over here, al tilba shatnes, abel gedilim tasalach, v'gaz rabbanim mishim ksus layl shapatim min tzitzis, v'avikilayim shlo b'makam mitzvah, as it says in Masechtas Menachos. So technically, there's nothing wrong with wearing shatnez in your tzitzis. The problem is, let's say you go to sleep in them in the middle of the night, in which is not is allowed zman mitzvah, so you end up violating wearing shatnez. So therefore, we say we don't want you to wear this at all. We don't want wool and linen in your tzitzis. So therefore, you're not doing a mitzvah saseh deraisa because of this gezerah. Maybe you'll fall asleep. Again, this is a notion of sheval tasa. So just don't wear them. The kivset seres. What is this? So Rashi says amazingly, "Lo kabalti miraboisai." This I don't really understand. Mikol makam kach nir beinai v'kosher hadavar sheshana b'toyseftu u'maisel masechtas be'ah b'gemar perik sheni. So he quotes the following. It says in Be'ah that kivset seres sheshachtan shlo b'zman l'shmon. So when it comes to Shavuos, there's the shnei kvasim that are brought together with the shtei lechem, and let's say it was shechted without the proper intention. Not for that sake. Hadam, says Rashi, Yizarek, you can sprinkle the blood, V'habasi achel, you can even eat the meat. The chol hazvachim shizvach l'shman, ksherin. And this is actually the very first line in Masechtas Zvachim, that any carbon that's shechted without the right intention is still kosher. You just didn't fulfill your obligation with it. It's like a regular carbon shlomim. V'im ha'is Shabbos. If let's say it's Shabbos shechol atzeres b'Shabbos, that Shavuos falls out on Shabbos, v'nin the Shabbos lidachos eitzel l'shman, and we know that you could bring karbonos on Shabbos properly. The tazeh v'shagig shol l'shma, this person made a mistake and brought the carbon shol l'shma, lo yizrak. So we say we don't want you to do the zrika. The imzarak hortza. However, if you did the sprinkling, it still works. Why? B'hahacha the zrika b'Shabbos shvus ba'almahu. Kiddushtanin and hasam shani shvus the Shabbos. The Gatani lo yizraik. It says midoraisa we don't want you to sprinkle this blood. V'akra shvus the rabbanan gimel asay the zrikas dam kataras imurim the chil's basar. mishum gezer shema yatalenu biyado, etc. So again, this is the same notion of don't bring this kivsi atzara, don't do this rika. B'shayfer v'lulav, this we doesn't even bring down, but again, we know there's a gezerah that you may end up, that's what Rashi says, shayfer v'lulav mitzvah sasem avatlina le b'shabbos midrabanan mishum gezer shema yatalenu biyadai. So again, they have the ability to do this. The hashnish shanis lo sheval taseh well me'aker who kuhunam sheval taseh ninhu. So that's the answer. All these different things, it's a sheval taseh. Tashma. Elav tishmuun afil oimer lecha. Even if a navi would say to you, a navi emes would say, Avor al achas mitzvah shabatayra. They say, I want you to violate a mitzvah. That according to, if it was done lafi shah for a certain moment of time, like Eliyahu did Bahar Carmel, what would he do? Says Rashi says he brought he was makrav a bama, the time of Isser Bamos, which is really Isser Karis of Shchuti Chutz, but he was allowed to do it. Eliyahu Bahar Carmel was allowed to do it. So how are the Chachamim allowed to do that? They mean la'akar davar min atayra. My answer, shani hasam dichsev elav tishmoun. That you should, in order for you to learn from it, the ligmer minei. So why don't we learn from here that they can do whatever they want? So my answer is migdar milsa shani, to make a fence. It is different, says Rashi. Lasos gader fatakana. In order to make a fence and to fix things, ki hasam sheheshivan alidei kain miavoidis kachavim. That they were able to distance themselves from idol worship, which is what his intention was, so that it was allowed. So this is a tremendous chiddush that a person is allowed to. The Chachamim allowed to be mevatel or be oiker davar min atayra, even become maseh in a situation where it's in order to be able to preserve the Torah, which is question 12. Either sheval tase or lemigdar milsa b'fil become maseh, in order to literally establish and to be able to keep the Torah strong with this fence, so to speak. That is what is allowed. TB 13 echoes the same thing. It asks specifically, and again, the answer simply is, as we said, lemigdar milsa kigana le'abahar Carmel, the oinshin v'lasu syag v'tayra. Weiter. Tashma. Bitlu mavutal divri Rabbi. What exactly is this talking about? So you absolutely need Rashi on this. So Rashi says as follows: Bitlu, Baal shesholach get leishto. So you have a husband, and he sends a get to his wife. He does it through a shliach. V'kadam, now before uva etzla, o shesholach l'shliach, he sends a messenger. The amrullah get shesholachti lach batal. Who? Harzeh batal. So even though the get is in transit, is in the mail, through the shliach, he can nullify it right on the spot, even though he's not even present. Which could obviously be problematic, because you would hope that the shliach would know about this. So Tanan b'rishayna hayoisa based in b'makam acher mavatli. Originally, they would make a base. You have to make a base in another place. You can be mavatlet. Lo haya moidia, and he didn't tell her. Hiskin Rabbi Gamliel hazakin shlo yehu oisim kain mimnei tikkun oilam. Because of tikkun oilam, they can't just do this. You can't just make a base in wherever you want and be mavatalit. The zimn in the mavatal v'lo yada. It's possible that she wouldn't know. She'll think it's a real good get. The insabo v'neha mamzerim, and then she'll end up getting married, thinking that she's really divorced. So therefore, bitlu mavutal de Rabbi. It actually is a good bitlu. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Omer enu yochel. L'vatlo, he's not able to be mavatal this get. L'hoisav al tanai, and he cannot add any conditions on it either after it was sent. Imkain makayach based in Yafeh. The husband, therefore, otherwise violated the psak of the bastin. Now, v'hahacha d'midoraisa batal get. Technically, as we said, the get should be batal. He has the right to do it. Misham makayach bastin kasharinan eishes ishal alma. In order to be able to strengthen the koyach of the beis din, and the husband violated the psak of the beis din, that he's not allowed to do this. So therefore, it is considered a get. He cannot be mavatal. Now, this is a tremendous proof, because midaraisa, it's a valid get, but he's saying that no, it's not a good get. How do the Chachamim have the right to be able to say that that they're divorced or they're not divorced. So man mekadesh adat rabban mekadesh afkin rabban kedushin. The reason is that even the guy can say, no, I was mavatalid, we're not divorced. The rabbanan have the authority to be able to remove that marriage as though it never even happened, that it happened like retroactively. It was never kedushin. I can understand kedushin with money because, as we established already in yesterday's daf, that they have the ability to, there's hefker, best, and hefker, and they can just say that the money was like that he gave to her was just a gift. So, however, kaddish mabiyah ma'ilchem emar. What do you say when it comes to the biyah? How can they uproot the biyah that they had? More answers, as we've seen this in numerous places, they could do that too. Shabar rabbanan labilas labilas nus. They just make the biyah into a biyah's nus. Fine. There's a lengthy Rashi on this. Ayin Sham. Tashma. Amr Belezer ben Tzaddik. Shishmati shebeistin makin. I heard that the beistin has the authority to give lashes, v'oinshin, and to punish shalom min ha-Torah. V'lo avor al divrei Torah. So that they should not violate al divrei Torah. El laso siag l'Torah. In order that they should make offense. Umasa b'adam echad sherachav al sus. There was a person who was riding on a horse. Says Rashi, Elohim mishum shvos lo olin be'ilon. It says in the Masechtas Be'ah toward the end of Daf Lamed Vav, one of the things you're not allowed to do on Shabbos, you're not allowed to ride a horse. And that's what he did. He was riding a horse for Shabbos, B'mei Yavanim, in the days of the Greeks. V'yavu Beistin, and they brought him to Beistin, V'sak Luhu, and they killed him, just like a person was Machal Shabbos Gomer, that the din is Skila. So the guy really didn't violate any Issa D'Oraisa. Now, Lomim Ne'sharoi L'kach, he didn't really deserve this punishment, El Hasha Sricha L'kach. This was the time that they needed to really make sure that people kept Shabbos, because at the time of the Yevanim, they were getting a lot of people that were not keeping mitzvos. So they had to be even more strict. Another story, She'atiach v'ishto tachas te'ena v'havila beistin v'hilkuhu, that this man, Rashi She'atiach, that he had relations with a woman underneath a tree, and they brought him to a beis din and they punished him. So again, we see that the Chachamim have the authority to even do misa. So they even la'akar devim in the Torah, not just once in a while, not just sheval tasa. My answer is, you're right. They do it by mitzvah saseh also. It's migdar milsa shani. Again, in order to be able to uphold the Torah, sometimes they have the authority to be able to do this as well. However, if it's not migdar milsa, in order to be able to make a fence under difficult times in Jewish history, then they can't just stam do it. So going back to our first Mishnah, so we said that, again, we're talking about a situation where a man went to the Medina Siyam, and then the woman is told that your husband died. She gets remarried, and then all of a sudden the husband shows up. So she has to divorce both of them. She doesn't get a ksuba, and it says the child is a mamzer, and then it says v'lozev is a matamula. If we're dealing with kohanim, so they're not able to become tummy for her. So the Gemara says as follows: Minolan, how do we know that doesn't work? D'chsev ki im l'sher hakarav elov v'yomer mar she'erzu ishto, that he's allowed the Kohen to become tummy to his wife. But it says seemingly in a stira, the pasuk says elsewhere, lo yatama bal ba'amav l'hechaloi, he's not allowed to become tummy. So yesh bal shematame, v'yesh bal she'en matama. Sometimes he can, sometimes he can't. Haketzad matamahu le'ishta kshera. So in this situation, because she's an Ishta Psula, he can't. So this is question TV 14 and question 13. Ksiv ki'im l'shera karvilav v'yomer mar sherzu ishto uksiv l'yatam ba'al ba'amav l'hechaloi haketzad so matamahu l'ishto kshera v'yatam l'ishta psula. Let's just see a couple more lines. So if she finds a lost object, they are not entitled to it. Why do we say that the husband gets this? So that there should not be any animosity and anger that he does so much for her, and she keeps the Metzias Isha. So let them get angry, right? This is not a relationship that we want anyway. And the work of her hands. Why does her husband get it? Because she's being supported by him with food. Then she's not getting anything. It's not his. They can't annul her vows. Why can he annul them? Because we don't want him to be like appalled, says Rashi. I'm making a net. I'm not going to take a shower for a month, right? So that's going to be obviously not something which the husband's going to be pleased about. If it happens, we don't care because they're not supposed to be together anyway. Adkan.